Good morning, guys. It is 7:26 and I've been up for about an hour. Also, I know, tragic, no bed vlog. My phone's just too full and I don't want to accidentally have to cut off the feed if I'm doing a long talk or whatever. So, which, who knows? I might not. It's a beautiful day. Blue skies, sun's popping up. Um, and it's the last half day of being here, technically. I'll technically have half a day to do things. So I got another I plan on leaving at between 2:30. That should give me plenty of time to get there and figure out how to get to the proper gate and all of that stuff at that specific airport. So, um, because my boarding time is uh 6:50 or something, or I don't know. It's in that six. I think it's between 6:30 and 7:30 or something. I don't remember specifics, but anyway, point is, yeah, I'm heading back, and I've been doing it over the past couple days, but I wanted to do kind of a recap, and I figured the morning vlog is kind of perfect for that. So, getting a little closer. I'm gonna angle it up a little bit. No, it didn't work. Well, that's fine. So I think probably the most important thing that has happened. Well, I don't know if there's a most important thing at this. I'm thinking about it. There's so many important things that have happened on this trip. It's crazy. I definitely feel more independent. Like I can trust that I can get things done and I'll be fine. I have more faith in. Sorry, I'm trying to. There we go. There's a little light that keeps peaking. I can kind of trust that things will just work out. That my intuition is able to kind of suss out what I'm supposed to be doing. And if I don't know, I just start walking and figure it out. And usually whatever pops into my head is it just ends up working out. So I think that's important, that I understood that I could do that. I think it's also important that I've finally I understand the mechanisms of why how I actually alchemize and absorb energies. And it's due to I am the one in control of whether or not I give my energy to other people. There's no such thing as energy siphoning because I'm the one giving. No one can take what I don't give. And I think that's really important because it's we often think about attributing actions to other people. well, they took my food, they took my this, they took my that, whatever, you know. Or I don't like how they treated me. I don't like how they did this. Um, but at the end of the day, everything comes back to you have complete power and control over what you accept and what you reject. Just as if you give money to people and then say I'm broke, and you say, well, they stole all my money. It's like, no, you were giving money to people. So you can't say that they stole it when you gave it. It's the same thing internally. You can choose to engage in a type of energy. So, an example, by I just wanted to kind of point out by me bringing this up, I am actively engaging in the energy. So, if you want uh, the simple version of like energy, when you engage with people via like trying to explain yourself to someone or trying to figure them out, this is you spending energy to like it forms a bridge that then they gain this energy that you're expending by trying to understand them or trying to explain why you're doing what you're doing. And if you don't want to have that dynamic, you simply don't interact. And I know that sounds weird because it's like, well, what if I'm interacting with the person on a daily basis? Well, you can choose to be the observer instead of the one interacting. And I think that's where, like, this older gentleman, um, he was standing in one of the restaurants that I was at yesterday, and he was waiting for his food. And I distinctly remember being like, oh, wow, I got my food before him, even though he was here first. And I think he was waiting for his food to go or whatever. But I'm gonna get some water real quick. This is the bottled water that I. Okay, I think that's better. It's always my voice box is always a little. It struggles to get online when I first wake up. Okay, so this older gentleman, he was standing there and he was waiting, and I basically got done with eating my food by the time, and I ate really slow. This is when I was eating the quesadillas. Man, they're still like, I don't know, that's weird. Anyway, so he's waiting and waiting and waiting, and he's starting to get really antsy. And he's like, at a certain point, he just started like, hey, is my food ready? It's taken an awfully long time. And I'm watching this, and at first, my first instinct was, oh, I gotta go like talk to them to help this older gentleman out. And I'm like, no, hold on. If you do that, you're going to be interacting with and energetically like entering this like field that this old man has set up of not being happy. And then I'm going to be like effectively like taking the energy that he had going on and kind of throwing it on these like workers in some way because he was not happy. And so instead, I made the conscious decision to not get involved because even though I could say something, um, number one, like, it's not that it's not my business. I mean, yeah, obviously it isn't my business, but like, there's something more fundamental here where it's like, by interacting, this older gentleman doesn't have the chance to speak up for himself, and he also doesn't have the chance to learn a lesson from what was going on. And the lesson may show up later for him. So it's almost like me robbing an opportunity for him to grow. And that's something that in the past I would have scoffed at my previous self and been like, you just didn't want to get involved. Or, well, you know, not helping. Like, there's sophistry around you saying, well, I just didn't want to help. And it's like, no, there's a difference between passively deciding, like, can't be bothered, versus kind of like making a conscious decision where you weigh the pros and cons out of like, okay, well, what actually will this accomplish if I say something? And in the like physical reality, yeah, obviously he could have gotten his food maybe faster if I had went and said something. Also, it's possible maybe he wouldn't have because they were incredibly busy. Um, so really, all I would be doing is agitating an already agitated situation and maybe cause something, negative to happen. So I watched as an observer without interacting with the energy. And this older gentleman literally started throwing a tantrum. He was stomping his feet, coughing, and then he started hitting his cane on the ground. He was like, "Arr, arr." And I was like, wow. Like, I was so shocked at like how yeah, the guy obviously had to wait a while, but like there were multiple times where he could have spoken up earlier when like I noticed he saw that I got my food first, before he even like before he got his food, and I had showed up after him. So he recognized, oh, like something's going on with my food. So at that point, when the waitress came back, he could have been like, hey, uh, just wanted to check in on my food. I understand you're busy, whatever. And that totally could have solved the whole thing, because I suspect his ticket got buried in all of the other tickets because they got slammed. Like, I was actually impressed with how interesting it was. Like, they were a well-oiled machine that, they were taking calls. They got like 3 or 4 calls back to back to back. Everyone's on the phone, and then they're making the food, and they're like, they got like delivery guys coming in every like couple seconds to get more food. and it was it was impressive. And then they had more and more people show up to get food as well, just sit down. And it was a really incredible moment where I was completely the observer. I wasn't even in the room. Like, yeah, my body was in the room, but it was like I wasn't even in the room energetically. Like, I had my own little bubble, and then I just watched the flow, and it was so incredible. And then I saw this older gentleman just throw a tantrum, and it's like, wow, incredible how like disruptive he was, because he simply didn't recognize that he could have said something way earlier. Because I could tell he got the feeling that he's like, wait a minute, something's wrong, because that kid, well, I say kid, that younger gentleman got food way before my food. So he could have said something. Because, I mean, it was very obvious. He had already been waiting for a decent amount of time before they even got to my food. So, and this is kind of a new state that I'm in, where I have my inner peace, my sanctuary that no one can interfere with. And it's been growing and like evolving, and like more and more internal stuff is happening that is like really positive. It's like a whole ecosystem that's like growing in there. And then you have the external and all of the energies swirling around externally. And I now can understand how to pick and choose what energies I take in to alchemize. Because, and I'll just say this, in the past, I would take in all energies. I would interact with anyone who needed help. I would like interact with and try and help in any way. And damn, like, what's going on with my throat? Okay. Yeah, okay. So anyway, the reason I'm bringing this all up is because there is an unseen layer to the physical reality that does interact with people on a consistent basis, that most people either refuse to acknowledge or don't even know the concept that it exists. Or they think it's some sort of woo-woo stuff, and they're like, well, that's fucking bullshit. And when you choose to turn a blind eye, or you're ignorant, you can have things happen to you that appear in the physical reality that seemingly have no, like, you're like, I don't know where this came from. But if you see the energetic, like, if you see the energy, and I'm not saying physically, it's more of like a feeling, and you can kind of just like, or at least I can, I'm assuming everyone can at some point, but like, if you get in tune, you can kind of sense what kind of vibes people are, you know, putting off. That's their energy. the vibes are just another way of saying, oh, like if you're walking past someone and you get this really like weird feeling from this guy, maybe it's their energy. Maybe that's what you're feeling. And you're not calling it energy. You're saying, oh, it's a weird vibe. Or I just didn't feel, it didn't feel right. Or whatever it is. You can call it the intuition. You can call it whatever. It's just reading energy. That's what it is. And it will affect you regardless if you believe it or not. So it's like it's a real phenomena that happens. It's just really hard to like measure because we don't really have any instruments that can like detect, oh, well, what energy is this person radiating off? Because it's not physical in nature. It's because since we are effectively like mech pilots piloting, our physical body, we have another component, and that component is the like spiritual energy that people are interacting with. Like it or not, that's just what's happening. So you can either choose to ignore it and then just wonder why all these weird things happen sometimes, or you can start kind of thinking about it. You don't have to become some spiritual guru. You don't have to become some spiritual guru. You don't have to like suddenly become a crystal shaman that like puts, crystals all around. You don't have to do rituals, none of that. You don't need any of that. It's just recognition that there are energies around that exist that you interact with. And that's all the change you really need. That's how you get the foot in the door of like, oh, when someone's angry and I start interacting with them, I also get some sort of like energy that maybe I might absorb, and maybe I get more irritable throughout the day. And it's not even your energy, it's their energy. But you think, oh, why am I so angry today? And it's because in the morning you had an interaction where you took a little bit of someone's energy that they sent at you because maybe you got in an argument. And once you start realizing that that's why, if you start on the wrong side of the bed by having something happen, it's the energy that is shifting around you and you keep carrying with you. And some people are naturally very good at just bouncing energy off of them, and they just focus on their own stuff, and that's great. But there are some people, and myself included, who in the past I would just absorb everything. I was like a sponge, and so I'd wonder why, like, I maybe I don't even interact with a person, and I hear the news about like, well, there was another school shooting. Oh, there was, this, and that happened. And, it starts to wear down on you where that energy, it seeps into you and just sits there. And it does impact you in a negative way. Now, I have this gift to be able to transmute basically anything into my own like personal power over time. And you guys have kind of seen this in real time where I don't explicitly say it, but when I work through something That's me alchemizing it. Like when I say, oh, um, I had this really obsessive thought and it's really been messing with me for the past 2 days, right? I alchemized that experience. Instead of getting upset or frustrated or blaming or whatever, I took that experience, extracted something that was helpful for my personal growth, and then suddenly got some realizations because of that extraction. And now I don't have to deal with that from an energetic standpoint where I'm not like constantly worried about the obsession anymore because I alchemized it. And then on top of that, I also gained this really valuable insight. And, I don't know if everyone, like, I feel like everyone should be able to do this to some degree. It just takes a lot of practice. And no one's going to be like really good at it in the beginning. I've literally been doing this my whole life. So, think about that as like if you try to compare with other people, if you're just trying to start out and learn it, because it is a skill. But anyway, my point still stands. And, there are lots of people out there who just absorb stuff. And then, kind of the reason why, for the people who are like fixers, and what I mean by that is people who want to fix things, where they're like, oh, I can help, I can fix them. uh I want to be of service, I want to help people, whatever. It's these people that are very, very susceptible to absorbing everyone else's stuff, because naturally they're more in tune with other people's feelings, thoughts, emotions, all of that stuff. um and they're just in tune with the energies at a subconscious level. Maybe it's conscious, but most of the time it's subconscious, where you don't really even realize you're doing it. You just do it. This is just your natural way of existing. Um, and you'll have, inevitably, people around you that you kind of one sidedly give energy to, because sometimes you get overloaded by just like existing, where if you're just constantly sponging everything up, eventually the sponge is too full. So you have this energetic like overload, and you got to offload it somewhere. So you got people around you that can do that. Um, and then you feel super drained because there's this constant kind of connection that you're sending this energy to people, and they're not really sending anything back to you. Um, this is how in physical reality you get scenarios where one person's always giving, the other person's always taking, and there's never a give and take, um, like balance. That's the type of stuff I'm talking about. It manifests in the physical reality. Um, so I mean, that's one of the things where it's like, that's effectively what was going on with my roommates, where it's like, I'm giving, they're not siphoning from me, I'm giving, and hoping that like if I give enough, they'll like heal themselves. But it doesn't work that way. They have to want to heal themselves. Now, to be fair, in the case of the friend who like I took this experience that the friend was having and alchemized it in front of him and said, here you go, that friend totally like took that advice to heart and used it. And that is what I'm planning on doing as a service, because I'm very good at it. And so, you know, for people who want to change, that's like, you know, maybe you just don't know how to alchemize that way, or maybe it'll take way too long for you to figure out how to even start doing that. So it's like, okay, well, you know, if I can just show you the process and teach you kind of like the steps that I took to get to where I saw, then it's like, okay, great. Now you can do it. You know, preferably, if I had an option of how things will go in terms of this kind of service, someone shows up to me once, they tell me this huge life problem that they're dealing with, I alchemize it for them, show them the steps of me alchemizing it, give it to them, and boom, they never see me again, because now they know how to do it. And I'm also, you know, if someone does repeatedly come to me for alchemy of like, hey, I got this new problem, I'm like, now hold on a minute. I understand you paid for this, you know, in the future. Obviously, for the first month, it's going to be free, but, you know, in the future, it's like, okay, hold on. I know you paid for this, but like, is this really what you want to be doing? Because you're in this loop of like relying on me to do your work for you. You need to know how to do the work, because I'm not always going to be here to do it. And, you know, I'm happy to help, but at a certain point, it's like, I'm teaching you the skill. You just need to do the thing again. And it's hard. That's why most people don't do it. So it's like, yeah, I don't doubt that there are going to be some people who will show up multiple times because they don't want to do the like tedious process of picking apart and figuring out like what the root problems are. And it's nothing against them. It's just kind of like, that's just how it's going to be. There are some people who just like want the result and don't care how they get it. When in fact, the process of getting the result is the most important process. So obviously, like, you get a result, great, but like, you're only eating for a day in the like teaching a person to fish versus fishing for them, right? And so inevitably, if you don't learn how to fish, you're going to come back to the guy the next day and fish, and ask him to fish again. So, yeah. But so there's that. And then I don't know why I got sidetracked and started talking about the service again, but I'm going to, after this, I'm going to film a video, detailing kind of the plan. I'll probably take a shower first, because I want to make sure that I don't know if I'm going to get, because I paid for Tuesday. So I don't know if I just have all of Tuesday or if I'm kicked out at a certain point. I'm not sure. It's possible that paying for Tuesday means leaving Wednesday, which in that case, that's fine. That means I'll just have like, you know, I'll lose half a day, which of like whatever, but that's worth it to me. So it's fine. But anyway, getting back to it. So, you know, the second part of this kind of service which again is going to be optional, is me just seeing if I can do some healing. In that, like, I don't know, your mileage may vary. It may do nothing to you. It may completely heal something. I don't know. We'll just have to see. I'm leaving myself open to the possibility that this could be awesome. So, um, but yeah, and also my kind of hope, at least for this next month, is that some people will be interested in being on the channel as videos that can help people, where they can just see the process. Because the more times that people see the process, subconsciously they can start learning. Even if they're not actively trying to learn it, I'm showing them the thought pattern that it takes to do the thing. So it's very possible that some people will just like pick it up at some point, and they may subconsciously do the process once, like, oh, I get it, and then they do it again, right? So that's why I want to see if people would be willing to allow me to post the recording up. And again, all voluntary. I'm not going to just do it just because. I'll make sure that I get consent in the video. So it's not like, well, did they actually consent or not? And I think what I'll do, just to be on the safe side, ask for consent before we do the session in the video. And then at the end of the session, saying, okay, now that you've gone through this process, do you still consent? Because sometimes people might go through something really personal and they're like, I did consent to this in the beginning, but I didn't know how personal this was going to be. And so I don't actually consent now. So making sure that they're still feeling like it's fine at the end of the session. And I think that's just like, it may seem overcautious, but I think I would rather be overly cautious and checking in, because I know how powerful the experiences can be with the alchemy, and how like deep sometimes I go, where it's like, yeah, if I'm starting to talk about like a childhood memory of like someone getting abused, like maybe they don't want that like posted, right? Some people might be okay with it. They're like, you know what, I talk about it, it's like not a big deal, I'm fine. But other people, maybe that's like they didn't even realize that was a thing for them, and this is the first time that they're even like exploring it. So that's where I'm kind of thinking like, okay, doing the before and after. And obviously if before they say no, well then that's totally fine. I don't have to ask them after. They already said no before. But yeah. So I think that's kind of where I'm at. Yeah. I think I'm going to go take a shower and prepare for the day. And then I'll film that video. I think I'm going to directly post it today, just because it's the earlier I post it, because I didn't realize, like, I feel really silly. I think I didn't publish I looked, I couldn't find it. I don't think I published the thing about me doing the service in the beginning anyway. So I don't think anyone even knows I'm going to be doing it. So I got to get that out earlier rather than later. So yeah. Anyway, beautiful day out. Great like end to the to everything. When I'm back home, I think I will maybe do another follow up video just to talk about anything that maybe I forgot about or whatever. So, anyway, thanks for listening, and I'll see you in a couple seconds. Bye. Hey guys, it is 11:50, and I'm about two and a half hours before I leave. I just got my food. Of course, the classic before I go. I'm gonna waste a little bit of plastic, but it is what it is. And I'm just not gonna open the hot tray. I don't feel that is something. I'm not gonna like reduce the amount of joy I get from eating the hot food by opening it up and then talking for 20 minutes and then being sad that it's cold. So, yeah. This will be the last vlog here in New York. So, really, aside from, I think the bed was pretty hard, but aside from that, and even then, I still got like fine sleep in spite of that. So, I guess it wasn't too bad. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to sleep at all. But everything else was just really good. I had my ups and downs, but that was kind of more about me struggling to just integrate a lot of the stuff that I learned as I've been here. But yeah, it's just been such a great experience. I'm so happy that I've been here, and I'm looking forward to future trips. This is definitely not going to be a one-off. At the very least, I'm going to go visit my buddy, who was in like a home for like mental rehabilitation or something. Like it was basically a rehab home. And he's going to be getting out soon, TM. So as soon as I have specifics, I think I will be planning a trip and heading over there. That's definitely my next destination, I think, because things could change. But yeah, there's that. Don't know if there's any other places I need to visit, but I guess things might pop up. Who knows? So I think one of the things coming back is I'm just gonna do all the things that I want to do, like it's not that I didn't want to do those things here, but I don't know. There's like an extra level of familiarity with like the place that I'm living at, as opposed to just randomly doing it here. And there's nothing wrong with randomly doing stuff here, but like there's a level of relaxation by being in a place that is like you're not living out of suitcases. Not to say that there's anything wrong with living out of suitcases. That, it's its own experience. And I think in the future, well, I'm not going to really think about the future because I think being present now is the most important thing, not looking off into the future. Which I will say, I have been so much more present in everything I do. Uh, Something as simple as not having headphones in and not listening to music and just actually just sitting with the like quote unquote boredom, because it really, oh right, that's what I wanted to mention. So I got a test that I came up with for people who are curious on maybe like how much, like how internally like sound they are. I think the easiest test is literally just to see how long you can sit with yourself without any distractions. I know that sounds boring, but that's kind of the point. Um, and I'm not talking about like face the wall and fucking like do nothing. I'm talking about like just being present in the moment, no distractions. So if you're doing dishes or you're walking around, try a whole day of no screens, no distractions. Like obviously if you gotta answer your phone, right? But I'm talking about if you doom scroll or you watch a bunch of videos, uh, really allowing yourself the space to just exist without that and really tap into like, what am I doing at a conscious level, like right now? And it's like, for me, it's like, there's the camera, there's my laptop, I'm leaning on this desk, I got nice food next to me, I'm moving my hands, I'm kind of inspecting them a little bit as I'm talking. There's like speech coming out of my voice. All of these things you can notice and recognize that there are like things happening. And the more present you are in the moment, the less you really even need distractions, because there actually is a lot of sensory information going on. Like I can hear the train, I can hear people honking, there's the like noise of the hustle and bustle down there. I don't know if you guys can hear that part, but you know, all of these things add up, and you don't need the distractions even though you feels like you do. And if you are someone, I've seen people have this like kind of thing where they have to have music 24/7. That to me, now I'm not going to say this is 100% like all people, but if you can't have a moment without music, then one of two things is kind of going on. First is maybe you have like tinnitus or some form of like thing going on with your ears to where it actually is like the only way to kind of comfort yourself. In that case, disregard what I'm saying, obviously, right? But if it's just a matter of, if you don't have the music, you start listening to the internal stuff that's going on and you don't want to do that, there is some major stuff that like you really need to consider. Like, do you want to live like that your whole life? And listening to yourself can be overwhelming. I'll tell you, for as just kind of a quick side, um, so I know me as the observer, the one piloting the mech, the meat suit, as it were. And if you don't realize that, well, I mean, you'll eventually kind of get there. So, just kind of take my word on, like, for now, just suspend your disbelief if you need to. But like, I know myself as the observer. And as the observer, I am not my body. I am not my mind. And I'm even beginning to realize my soul is like there, but the observer is a bit different. And I don't know what really that means. But having understanding of being the observer means you should really start cultivating a friendship and a love for your body, your mind, and your soul. Because when you do that, everything starts to work together instead of disharmoniously and separate. When you take care of all the body's needs, the body works great. When you take care of all the mind's needs, the mind works great. When you take care of all the soul needs, your soul is great and happy. And then showing appropriate love for all of these things as well. They all have their own unique like things about them that are really special. And cultivating this relationship means that, and I'll just give you an example of something that has been working really well for me with my body. I can literally communicate with my body and let my body know, hey, in about an hour or so, I'm going to be going out. So if you need to use the restroom, now is the time to be really thinking about getting that process underway. If not, I won't be going to the bathroom when I'm out there. I'm just letting you know. So you're going to have to hold it until we get back. That sounds a little bizarre to talk to my body that way. But when I've done that, I've had zero issues being out all day. No problem. Like, I don't have to use the restroom, whatever. At least for like 6 or 7 hours sometimes. So it's like communicating with your body, communicating with your mind, saying, hey, these thoughts, I'm not a fan of them. We need to switch them up. Let's think of a way to make it to where we can have positive thoughts instead of those negative ones. Again, it's a process. But now my mind, it's not, sometimes there's like the instinctual, oh, that was stupid. But then I correct it. But I'm not doing the negative self-talk that I used to. And so that's another piece. And then the like inner child, I don't know if the inner child is like directly attached to the soul or if it's like a separate thing. I don't know the mechanics. I just know the inner child exists. And being kind to your inner child and allowing yourself to come out and play, do things that the inner child wants to do. That's another important part, right? For your soul specifically, doing the like the like things that fulfill you, the like life's purpose kind of stuff, where it's like, oh yeah, this really resonates with me. This is something that I feel like I should be doing. Um, all of it's tied together. And when you live in harmony and are all aligned, it's just like it's such a magical experience where you're just like, you know, you're not directly controlling the body. You are, but like it's not at the like individual cell level or whatever, right? There's a lot of just automatic processes that go on. And so just letting your body know when you're going to do stuff, it sounds simple, but it actually changes a lot. Like today, I'm like, okay, body, like, we're going to be going on a plane and I'm going to be leaving in like 2 hours. So anything you need to clear out now, you get it done. And then on the plane, like obviously if something comes up, because I'm going to be on the plane for a while, we'll do our best, but like, at least I'm giving the proper kind of like letting know, hey, it's almost like living with roommates and being like, hey, I'm going to go out and go to the store. Do you want anything while I'm out? It's like, it's some simple stuff like that, where being a good roommate as opposed to some sort of like rampaging, rhino knocking everything over and just kind of expecting that everything's going to work out. So, yeah. Anyway, appreciate everyone for following me on the journey. I see that there's been an uptick where now there's been like 3 or 4 people on average that have been watching the videos. So that's great. Like, thanks for sticking with me. I don't know who you are, but good job. And also, on the off chance that the divine partner is watching, I'm waiting. So, like, obviously get your shit done, but like, I'm waiting. Anyway, I just felt like saying that. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to say. I think I'm just gonna eat my food now, and I'm probably similar to the other uh, the other plane trip. Getting here, I'm probably only just gonna eat this one meal, and then I will. So I might not make a follow up video. Maybe I'll do like a quick like pop on my phone and be like, "Hi, I'm about to go to bed. Thanks for watching," and then that's it. So I don't know. We'll leave that for a future Tom. But yep. Okay. See you back at the place that I live currently. Bye.